What's up guys? Today we're going to be talking about the Lux Custos, the idea behind it, and how to properly install it on your weapon mounted light. So the whole concept behind the Lux Custos was that we were all really tired of having to clean our weapon mounted lights. We had used chapstick, pencil erasers, what else? Blue painter's tape. We put quarters on the lens and then wrapped the painter's tape around that, and nothing seemed to work. When you would draw from different holsters, sometimes the tape would get caught and then it would stay inside the holster. Sometimes if you were shooting a Glock 19 or a Glock 17, the light actually protrudes past the muzzle, so when you'd come up to shoot, you're actually blasting away the tape anyway. Mo had this idea banging around in his head. Our business partner Alex had a 3D printer. He said, hey, I have this idea for a cover that would go over the end of the X300 and stop the carbon from building up on the lens. So Alex went home, took out his calipers, measured up the X300, and the Custos was born. Now that first prototype that we actually have, it's still on Mo's 19X today. So we were playing around with these prototypes, and unfortunately I found out that we weren't going to be able to use them really well in Kydex style holsters. So that meant any sort of outside the waistband or inside the waistband holsters. At the time, I was using the T-Rex Arms Ragnarok light bearing model. When I would go to draw the pistol out of the holster, I'd come out and the Custos would still be stuck inside the holster, and I would have a dirty light at the end of the day. Now the reason for that was that the 1.0 had a very thick wall thickness, and we had to have that thicker wall because of how the printer had worked and the minimal amount of strength that we wanted to retain. The two differences between the 1.0 and 2.0 of the Lux Custos is the material that we chose to make it out of and the wall thickness. So because we went with a carbon fiber reinforced polymer, that allowed us to get the light body down to a much slimmer profile. So now, because of that slimmer profile, the Custos will now fit in virtually any holster. There's a lot less interference with the 7000 series of Safariland holsters. There has been virtually no interference with my Tier 1 concealed AIWB Axis Elite holster. It also works well with the MSP Pro, although it needed fine adjustments of the retention screws. So that was kind of the history of the Custos. Now let's talk about how to properly get this thing installed. I can't believe that I didn't mention this in the other half of the video, but after we were messing around with our prototypes and we finally kind of got to a quote unquote production version of the Custos, we thought that this would actually make a really great tool for law enforcement, because we had some law enforcement buddies of ours that would come out to our classes or to our hosted classes, and they would go through an entire day of training, and they would sometimes have to go out onto patrol that same night. So the Custos is a really great tool. If you're law enforcement, you can go and do a class, or you can go and do your day of training, etc. And all you have to do at the end of the day, when you are cleaning up your firearms, or if you are going out to patrol, is just to take the Custos off, and you have a perfectly clean light every single time. So on the table in front of us are a number of items that are going to help us effectively clean the light. This stuff is pretty cool. It's a biodegradable citrus degreaser. It was made for bicycle chains. It works really, really well at getting the carbon off, but not so much the lead splash. For the lead splash, we'll need something a little more heavy duty, like a razor blade or a box knife or dental picks, like just something that's going to chip away, scrape off, or pick off the lead splash that ends up on the bezel of the light. Then, of course, we just have some simple wire and nylon brushes. You can get these at any hardware store. Some Q-tips and paper towels, and last but not least, some Paragon WLC. This stuff fucking rocks. It's quickly become our favorite cleaner simply because it's so goddamn effective. So step one in cleaning our light is to remove it from our firearm. You'd think that that would be pretty self-explanatory. But thankfully, our light is actually pretty clean. There's not really any carbon buildup or lead splash on the bezel, but there is some funk here on the lens that we're gonna get off today with the WLC. But for those of you that have really, really heavy lead splash or carbon that is built up on the bezel, the first thing that we need to do is take our box razor or razor blade or dental pick and start to effectively scrape off as much of that lead splash or carbon buildup as we possibly can. And from there, what you're gonna do is take your metal wire brush and whatever solvent or degreaser that you guys choose, you're gonna put a few dabs onto the bezel of your light, then take your wire brush and be very careful when you do this not to scratch the glass. We're just cleaning the bezel. So we take our wire brush and we start to work all the way around, even get up here onto the body of the light, just clean up the entire thing. Then we would take our paper towel and wipe it. Then we'd put a few more dabs on, keep going with the wire brush all the way around, wipe it off, rinse and repeat. We're gonna do this for as long as it takes until, like if you have the FDE model, you notice that the lead splash is like totally gone or the carbon that's on there, it's you basically brought the color back, or that when you go to wipe it, the only thing that's coming off onto the paper towel is the solvent or your degreaser or whatever that you use, and there's no more black gunk coming off onto the towel. That is when you have effectively cleaned off the bezel of the light and we are back down to the anodizing. It's very, very important that we get back down to the anodizing. For our lens, like I was saying, we absolutely love the Paragon WLC. All you have to do, put a few dabs onto the light, like so, onto the lens, let that stuff work all the way around. Could even put a little bit more if we want to. Ooh, that's like way too much, but hey, we're trying to get all of that shit off. So just effectively covering all of the glass. I've seen videos where dudes wait 30 seconds or they just immediately go to town with the Q-tips. Right about now would be the amount of time that we're gonna use here. So let's start to work the product into the glass all the way around, getting into the nooks and crannies. And I think, honestly, dudes, we are done. All right, I think that's it. Last but not least, fucking perfect. Isn't that shit crazy? I know it wasn't too much, but still, this stuff is absolutely amazing. If you haven't purchased some already, we highly recommend you do. I'm gonna provide a link down in the description for you guys so you can pick some of that stuff up. Now that we have our light completely clean and you have received your Custos in the mail, like so, they come packaged just like this. We're gonna take out the packaging material and we have our clear lens in there. So what we're gonna do is set the clear lens down inside, just let it fall, and we're going to press it down into the step. And once we have that in place, you're going to look on the inside edge, and if the sacrificial lens is raised at any portion, you gotta press it down even more. I have this one set in place, so now what I'm going to do is just take my light, place it on top, and push from the top all the way down. And there we go. We are set up and ready to go. So that is how you properly clean your light and install the Lux Custos. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.